Good day, everyone, and welcome to another learning session brought to you by Philippine Society for Talent Development. This is called Learn from Home series, and you know, PSTD is a nonprofit organization committed to maximizing the capabilities of learning and development practitioners in our country. My name is Luz Mercurio, and I will be your anchor today. We have 56 participants. Welcome, everyone. You can also let us know if you're in through the chat box. Please send your greetings through the chat box. Make sure you set your configuration to all panelists and everyone so we can all read your greetings. Let me just check. Good afternoon, Marisil. Hello, Marisil. Alma, good afternoon. Aiko, good afternoon. Irish, hello. Lorena, hello. Jeline, hello. It's a rainy Friday and thank you for joining us. A blessed day to you. Roselyn, Mary Rose, hello. Ria, hello. Jenny, good afternoon. May galing bang Visayas and Mindanao? We will know that. Now we have already 219 participants. Let's move to the poll. We'd like to know you a bit better so that our speaker will find a way to communicate to you, reach out to you through her presentation. We have 3 questions as usual. First is, what type of talent development practitioner are you? You can choose if you're a soft skill trainer, technical trainer, are you an educator, a coach or mentor? Are you part of HR? Or are you a manager or an executive, a consultant? And the next question, where are you calling from? Luzon, Visayas, or Mindanao? Last question is this your first time in PSTD Learn from Home series? In the previous webinars, we've had, I think, more than half from the academe. So we are welcoming all the teachers, the educators. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Sige po, we'll wait for your answer. Excited to listen to the speaker. Thank you, Luz. Jessica, you're done with your demographic check. Thank you for answering the poll. Magandang hapon sa iyo, Victor. Getika, good afternoon. From UAE, wow. Hope you're well. From Parañaque, Evelyn, hello. From Laguna, Rika, thank you for joining us. From Davao, good afternoon, Maharlika Ginto. Okay, for this afternoon, we have 44% educators, and then followed by 20% HR admin. We also have 11% technical trainers. Welcome sa inyong lahat. The rest, we have soft skills trainers. We have managers and executives. Welcome sa inyo. Consultants, 2%. And for those who are joining us, marami pa rin from Luzon, 84%. And then followed by Mindanao, 11%, and 6% from Visayas. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Is this your first time in PSTV Learn from Home series? We have 55%, more than half, first time nila. Welcome po sa inyong lahat. And of course, 45% from, matagal na or suki na namin. And we welcome you all. As you know, Oplan Hope, we live in PSTD, we live our mission. No? We grow, we learn, we transform. During the uncertain period, we decided to continue upholding the mission. No? And we have established Oplan Hope nga. It means hang on people enablers. And we've gathered 60 volunteers and designed relevant programs to help colleagues and now educators who are heavily impacted by the pandemic. So we curated free sessions to help the learning community cope with the crisis. And aside from that, we also are offering relevant paid webinars to sustain our operations here in PSTD. Our flagship project, as most of you are aware of, is called Learn from Home series. We started offering free webinars last April, and to date, we already have 41 classes. And then we invited great speakers from different parts of the world. Some of them are thought leaders. And it's a way for us to help you, our participants cope and also lead during this uncertain period. And of course, update you with the latest information in digital learning as we move to the new normal. We now have 11,688 Zoom attendees. And as you can see there, we have more than 200,000 viewers via Facebook. We have 35 viewers na sa Facebook. Thank you, Nat. Nat is our technical expert here. Salamat sa suporta mo sa lahat ng Learn From Home series. Now, for those of you who are interested to know more about PSTD and know about our advocacy, you can go visit facebook.com/mypstd. You can even watch recorded sessions of Learn From Home series and check out upcoming events. We really encourage you to join our community, share your talent, and expand your network. We already now have 345 participants. Salamat po for joining us every week as we share with you great insights from great speakers. Upcoming on June 23, Coaching in Times of Uncertainty. That's a free webinar brought to you by PSTD, and we have no other than Julius Ordonez, our Master Certified Coach of the International Coach Federation. Abangan niyo po yan, 3 p.m. And then, sa weekend, we usually have a good conversation with subject matter experts. This is a recap of the major learnings from this week's free webinars. We do that every week, every Saturday at 3 p.m. So upcoming, we have Adrian Robles as our moderator, and he will be joined by Ms. Ria Villanueva, Director of Human Resources of Collins Aerospace, and then Vivian Arnobit, Executive Director of Meralco Power Academy. We also have paid sessions, and these are usually requested learning sessions. We have particularly on June 25, that's mentoring with Maribel Aglipay as your speaker. And then for June 30, how to manage emotions through change and transitions, 2 p.m., that's gonna be me, your speaker for that particular day. And how do you become a member of PSTD? There are two ways. You can be an individual member and you can join as a corporation. So corporate membership is at 5.6 and individual membership is 2.8. You will have a chance to attend some of our ET Panans and paid webinars for free. You can also be part of our community practice and learn more about digital learning and get good resources from us from our library. You'll gain more friends here. Visit www.pstd.org and become a member today. Good day, everyone. Hi, May. Hi, Nelise. Michael, thank you also for joining us. And for this afternoon, our theme, of course, is part of the theme, the entire theme of June, which is capacity and capability building, not only of learning practitioners, but also our academe, our beloved teachers. Today's session is about moving from classroom training to virtual session. To tell you more about what we have prepared for you in our session is our moderator, Mr. Lawrence Ko. Let me just introduce Lawrence. Lawrence is a domain manager for IO Manila. He is also the current area director of Toastmasters International of Makati. He is a member of PSTD and a significant part of the Learn From Home series group. So a warm welcome to you. Good afternoon, Lawrence. Take it away. We have 422 participants, by the way. Hello.
Thank you so much, Luz. Wow, we have 427 to 429 and it's counting. So we're very excited. I'm pretty sure the speaker is also pretty excited to share with you the things that she has prepared to share for this afternoon. So as your moderator, first let me give you the reminders that this is going to be the norms and the practice for the rest of the hour. First one, as you may have noticed, all attendees will be on mute to manage the flow of information, but no worries, as provided there for any questions that you might have, you can utilize the Q&A tab of Zoom. So please make sure that you're seeing that now. You have the Q&A tab, and then after that, you have the chat tab. So if you have any insights, or if the speaker is going to ask questions and you have particular answers, you have anecdotes based on your experience, you can put them in to the chat box. But again, if you have any questions pertaining to the bullet points, to any of the things that is provided or given to us by the speaker, then it's going to be living in the Q&A box. And of course, as your moderator, my role, my task for this afternoon is for me to be able to synthesize your questions and be able to ask them, relay and bridge to our speaker, so that the learning will not only come from the contents of the presentation, but also from the Q&A at the tail end of the program. Some of the most common questions that we are receiving would be, would I be receiving a certificate by attending this Learn from Home session? The answer is here. We will be issuing certificates to those who will answer post-evaluations. And we will send the post-evals via email only if the attendee in Zoom has lasted 40 minutes in the call. So as mentioned by Luz earlier, Nat will be tracking the attendees for today. And if you're able to stay for at least 40 minutes, we're going to be receiving the post-evaluation form. Answer that and you will be eligible to get the certificate. So I hope that that particular question will not populate our Q&A tab. But regardless, if you come in a bit late and you haven't had the chance to read about it, then we will definitely type it in and reply to your answer via the Q&A tab. Okay, so we're now at 479 participants here in Zoom, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a couple of hundred people via Facebook Live. So I think we're going to max out the capacity of 500 headcounts here in Zoom. So I will not take your time any longer, and I'll be moving now to the introduction of our speaker for this afternoon. So our speaker for today is an HR professional with experience in learning and development, succession, performance, and competency management. She has also completed multiple certification courses in strategic HR business partnering, facilitator process, learning design and evaluation, and success profiles. Our speaker is currently the Learning and Development Manager for Aboitiz Equity Ventures Incorporated. Talking to us today on the topic, moving from classroom training to virtual sessions. Friends in talent development, let's all welcome Ms. Marla Guevarra. Good afternoon, Marla.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope you could hear me well. Good afternoon, guys. Okay, so let me just share my screen. All right. I hope you could hear me well. Good afternoon again. So today I'll be sharing with you some best practices for creating and facilitating a virtual training. And I'd be providing some tips on how we can build presentations and create moments for interaction so you could drive engagement from all of your learners. Okay, so I'm actually a bit nervous because this is my very first webinar outside of the Aboitiz group. So bear with me, guys. Okay, so if you guys are new to conducting learning sessions in a virtual world, this webinar would really be perfect for you and is a good head start. Hopefully those who are pros here would still get ideas from me, at least 2 to 3 ideas. So are you guys ready? Ready na ba? Okay. So let me start. So let's start with virtual instructor-led learning. What does it really mean? So virtual instructor-led learning is designed to simulate the traditional classroom or learning experience. However, it should have a unique customizable design and experience. It can be conducted synchronously or asynchronously, but what I'll be sharing with you today is how we do it in Aboitiz Academy, which is of course synchronously. Second, it is made possible by technology. That's why it's virtual, right? It is the fastest, the most inviting, most practical, I would say, and effective internet-based learning delivery. Lastly, it is a series of smaller sessions. The longest you can go is 90 minutes, and it's way better to have multiple sessions per week than one day long. Uploading also and recording is much easier if it's shorter. So to give you an example, in Aboitiz Academy, we have a 1.5-day classroom training, and it's 11 hours long. What we did is to divide it into 6 to 7 bite-sized sessions. There is like 1 hour or 1.5 hour in the morning, and another session in the afternoon for 4 consecutive days. I believe that having space in between the sessions would actually have better retention from your participants, and at the same time, they'll have the opportunity to apply the concepts, right, in their respective functions. But again, don't forget that it is very critical to schedule 1 10-minute break per hour. Don't forget that, okay? So in a virtual instructor-led learning, learners would also have the opportunity to benefit from immediate feedback, answering questions, connection and collaboration, which is really critical to a lot of learners. So this is something that I'll be sharing with you later on when I present some tips on how you can make the session interactive and engaging. Remember that in a virtual instructor-led learning, you will have to create activities that will encourage participation and maybe include additional learning resources that they can check prior to the session. For example, it could be an online module, it could be articles. And this is something that would give you stuff to talk about during the session itself. Remember this, guys, a successful virtual instructor-led learning would require the seamless interplay between among 3 important factors. First is, of course, your content. Second is the technology that you're using. And the last one, which I think is the most critical, would be the delivery. Okay. So before I go ahead and start, I just wanted to check with everyone. What is the current setup of your organization? Have you canceled or are you planning to cancel training due to COVID-19? Are you currently evaluating virtual delivery channels? Or have you moved to virtual delivery channels and already enjoy the approach? Or you've already moved, but you feel like you still need help to improve. So I'll wait for the poll and see for the results. I'm going to give you some time. Mostly B. You're currently evaluating. All right. B, D, to get.
Thank you, Marla, for putting up the poll. So for our other participants, if you are not able to automatically see the poll, it's going to be on your control panel. It's either going to be between the Q&A and chat buttons. So please click on the poll.
So we have 39% both for currently evaluating virtual delivery channels. And some of you, good to see that you have already moved to it, but you feel like you still need help to improve. So hopefully during this session, I could actually help you, right, on how you will make your sessions more engaging to your participants. Okay. All right. So the reason I asked that is I want to understand, right? Like before you move training to a virtual format, we need to know which sessions, right, should be considered. Today, I will actually help you prioritize which among your programs would make the best candidates for virtual sessions. So guys, listen, okay? And feel free to type in the chat function. If your answer to my questions, right, is mostly yes, then I highly recommend converting your training to virtual. All right? Feel free to use the chat function. If your answer to my questions is mostly yes, then I will recommend converting your training to virtual. Okay, for the first one, applicability of content. My question is Is the learning content broadly applicable to many learners across your organization? First question, right? Second, complexity of learning content. Does the learning content mostly introduce simple concepts, meaning compared to something that would require significant hands-on application to the learning to be effective? Can it be effectively delivered electronically? Okay, so I'm seeing some no. All right, mostly no. Oh my God. Okay, sige. Third one, learner ability and motivation. So think about it. Is your audience able and motivated to own and manage their development, even in a virtual environment? Again, is your audience able to own and motivate, right? Themselves, right? For self-driven, even in a virtual environment. So just to share with you, in Aboitiz, I believe it would be much easier for us because we have introduced and practiced the mindset of self-driven learning and development. Hopefully, it is the same for you guys. Okay, sige. Thank you for answering. Next question on organizational impact. Listen, is there a risk for your organization if the learning content does not get delivered as soon as possible? Is there a risk for the organization if the learning content does not get delivered as soon as possible? So in Aboitiz, we really want to continuously build on human capital because we believe that people is the greatest asset of our organization. And without, for example, coaching skills as a training program, it might affect how leaders develop their people. That's why I know it's the pandemic, right? But we still decided to convert our core programs. When we say core programs, these are programs designed to all team leaders and team members of the Aboitiz group. And we converted those core programs into virtual because we believe that it would really have an organizational impact. So, okay, mostly yes. All right. Next question on scalability of content. Will a large proportion of your team leaders and team members benefit from this content? Okay, from the content that you're planning to roll out, will a large people benefit? Okay, next, technological capabilities of your learners. Is your audience able to use these technologies, right? Are they savvy enough to use Zoom or Google Meet? Consider also if there is like access in remote areas. No, okay. And the last one that you have to ask yourself, right? If you're going to move your classroom training into a virtual session, you have to ask, is the learning content time sensitive, right? Must it be dispersed to your team leaders and team members right away? Is it that critical, right? Okay. So actually, I have asked you a lot of questions. So if we go back to the factors, right? So I have asked you a lot of questions. If we go back to the factors, can you go back to the former slide, please? Okay. So if most of your questions here is actually mostly yes, right? Then I will really encourage you to start converting your your classroom training to virtual, and that's what I will help you with. Okay, if some of your if some of your answers are no, then you will have to prioritize and further discuss this with your executive team leaders. All right. So now, before I go ahead and share with you some tips, I wanted to share some benefits, okay, of moving to virtual instructor-led learning. Okay, first, you grow in your profession, right? Because you have the opportunity to play around various technologies and also figure out ways on how you can effectively deliver your content. Second, you extend reach and scalability. You're able to reach widely dispersed learners. Previously in classroom training, we had to do like sessions in Manila, and there are also other sessions in Cebu and Davao. But with virtual, we can reach every single learner, right? In the different business units of the Aboitiz group in the Philippines and even those outside. Third, you reduce training costs. Maybe for some of you, you have eliminated it completely. We can accommodate now large numbers of learners without increasing the investment on materials or space needed in a typical classroom setting. Also, there's no longer travel, food, and lodging costs. Actually, in Aboitiz, when we had classroom training, we really provided AM snacks, lunch and PM snacks to our team member. So imagine, right? Imagine the cost savings when we converted everything to virtual. And then lastly, of course, it is very convenient, right? You actually get to learn at the comforts of your own home. Okay. So now let's quickly go through, right, on the challenges of converting classroom training. The first one is there is less face time. It's easier for students to disengage and might be difficult for facilitators to address those who need additional feedback. Second, the time needed to skill up for a new technology, right? Actually, myself, I really had to enroll in some courses so that I would learn how to navigate some platforms like Zoom. And of course, third, frustrating technical issues, right? It could be a connectivity problem, and hopefully I don't get that now. And it could also be an audio-related glitch. Sometimes your webcam might not be functioning. So these are just some of the frustrating technical issues you can encounter when you are doing virtual training. And lastly, there could be an equivalent cost for using some platforms. All right. So now let's start, right? Let's start on how you can come up with a great virtual material. So visuals are really paramount to promoting engagement and increasing training effectiveness. So the first thing that you will have to consider is the story flow and impact, right? Is it smooth and logical? Is your story, is the data of your story compelling? Or are there clear application steps and supporting materials? That's the first one. Second is, of course, the length of your materials. So participants need to look at a new slide, okay, every couple of minutes to remain engaged. So for a 60-minute virtual session, aim for a 25 to 30 slides long. That's why in this session, guys, I'll be honest with you, I have only prepared 19 slides because I'll be speaking for 30 to 40 minutes. Okay? And lastly, the slide design. You should have slides. It should be designed to help participants listen, right? And stay engaged. So incorporate white space to avoid slides feeling overwhelming. Keep screen text at a minimum, right? What do I mean by this? You could actually use images and even represent concepts, right? And their relationships. And a best practice target. Listen, guys, all right? The best practice target should be a maximum of 40 words per slide or 6 lines of text with 6 words per line. I hope you got that. 40 words per slide or 6 lines of text with 6 words per line. Next, incorporate builds. You know what builds are? Do you know what builds are? So builds, these are animations, okay? But remember, not too many, okay? Not too many animations in your presentation. And then lastly, which is very critical to most of your learners, even when I was a student, Include an agenda page with clear timings, okay, to help learners track with the session and of course to stay engaged. You guys got that? Remember remember the feeling of the slides, okay? Remember how many words they should see. Remember to have enough white space so that your slides are not overwhelming. Incorporate animations or builds. Those are the things that your learners during a virtual session would look into. Because if, for example, my slide, okay, when I started talking at 2 o'clock today, it's still the same slide, do you think you could keep your learners engaged? I don't think so. Okay? All right. Sige. Now, if we actually know how to come up, right, with an effective virtual material, we should also know how to facilitate well. Guys, all of you here, most of you here are teachers, are educators, so we should all know how to facilitate well. So remember that instructors, virtual instructors, should have acting skills, okay, and voice inflection, all right, to keep the content alive. And of course, we should never ever forget the most important part for all learners, whatever age, right, is to make it fun. So now let's see what makes a great virtual instructor. The first one, of course, guys, you need to know your tool, right? Every instructor should constantly draw on tools and participant interactions to keep something happening on the screen. You should learn how to navigate it perfectly. Know your tool. Second, be virtually present. What do I mean when I say virtually present? Okay, you need to make the content come alive. You have to ensure that the session is as engaging as a classroom training, maybe even more engaging. Okay, you have to tell lots of stories, lots of anecdotes if possible. You need to be aware of your virtual environment. All right. Third, communicate effectively. What do I mean by that? To do that, you should become an engaged listener as well. I know you cannot listen to all of them because you're in a virtual world, right? But of course, there are some hints, right? There's a chat function. You could sometimes see them on their webcam, right? So pay attention to non-verbal signals of your participants. And remember to assert yourself. When I say assert yourself, you have to express your thoughts in an open, honest, and direct way. So when it comes to the delivery now of the learning objectives, guys, we need to be crystal clear for participants. I recommend communicating specific learning goals when you send out the invitation, but also reinforcing those objectives at the beginning of each training session. And lastly, guys, what do you think would be the last one? There, create engagement. I believe this is the most critical part, which I also told you earlier that delivery is key. Create engagement. Constantly ask for input, comments, and answers to questions. How? That will be what I'll be sharing with you guys today. Are you guys excited to hear some tips? I know this might be basic for some of you, and hopefully this is pretty new as well for the others. Okay? All right. But before we go ahead, and before I give you my interactive tips, I believe, right? In the Boitis Academy, this is what you can do, okay? When you are planning to do a virtual training for a better learning experience. We share with our participants this virtual guidelines that you see on your screen right now. And we share it, okay, before the session, a day before the session. Don't forget, these virtual guidelines should be shared a day before the session, okay? We also set expectations that it will really be an interactive workshop, okay? So as you can see, right, on the virtual guidelines, we build in a time buffer at the beginning of each session that gives everyone enough time to connect. You could see there, log in 10 minutes early. So keep in mind that participants should have an effortless experience accessing your choice of platform. So there might be connectivity issues or challenges. So there needs to be additional guidance to ensure easy connectivity. And we also remind them ahead to turn on their cameras when the session starts. Some of them might be conscious, right, to show themselves. Maybe they haven't taken a bath, they haven't brushed their teeth. I know we can smell them, right? But of course, it's executive presence when you're in front of the camera. So it's very important, right, to ensure that you are actually sharing these guidelines ahead, a day before, so that they can prepare and that they are aware that they will have to show themselves in front of the other participants and of course the facilitator. And then there are other rules, like as you can see here, muting when not speaking, right? Ensuring that they will really stay present during the session. So setting the expectation that it will be an interactive workshop. Next is, of course, asking them to close down other applications to save on bandwidth. And of course, really, it's to avoid distraction, and reminding them to use the chat function for questions. Okay, so guys, I will be sharing my slides with you, and this is something that you can definitely adapt in your own organizations. Remember, share this, okay, prior to your session so that your participants are virtually prepared. Okay, now, so it is my question here, right? How will we enable interaction? This is something that I will be sharing and hopefully will be applicable to all of you. So it is really more challenging to create and maintain engagement and interaction between participants in a virtual session than a classroom training. In a virtual session, it is easier for participants to become distracted, right, by their surroundings and other work. That's why in the virtual guidelines, as you can see, we ask them to to exit, right, on other applications to avoid distraction. So they may be confident, right, that they can multitask. But remember that for learning to be effective, how many percentage of focus do you think? For it to be effective, how many percentage of focus? Can you let me know? What's the percentage for a learning to be effective? It has to be 100%. There has to be 100% focus from the participants. Remember that it just can't be 90, it can't be 70. You need 100% for your learning to be effective. Okay, so they will learn best when they are fully engaged. And it's our role, okay, as facilitators to build in opportunities for interaction and maintain this engagement. So I know, guys, it is difficult to build openness and trust among participants in a virtual setting. That's why it is critical to invest time, right, for introduction. Remember this, it's critical to invest time for introduction, icebreaker, ground rule setting at the beginning of a session to give them comfort with opening up. Okay, so how will we now enable this interaction? Are you guys ready? Okay. First step that I'm going to give you. I know this is pretty basic, but hopefully this would be applicable to all. So these are just some screenshots from our training sessions in Aboitiz Academy. First, ask them to turn on their webcam and unmute themselves when they're speaking. Okay, when you do this during the introductions, it actually creates a sense of community and builds credibility of peers. So in Aboitiz, it is really an opportunity, because we're really a large conglomerate. It is an opportunity for them to get to know team members from other business units. So it's critical that you ask them to turn on their cameras at the start of the session, because they will feel like they belong and they are one community. Okay, so you could also use this tip when there is something that must be read word for word on your deck. Okay, perhaps there is a situation that you want them to read. So just ask for a volunteer right? Or assign someone who will turn on their camera for that portion only and read it, okay? And last one, you could use this also when you're conducting a recitation as well. So it may be intimidating in the beginning, but actually it would really help them stay focused because they know that they need to listen attentively. So when they are called, they will have to turn on their camera, answer your question confidently. Okay? Hope you guys got it. All right. Second tip. My second tip is to really use the chat function. Okay, just like how you guys are using it now. Okay, you can use this skip to keep the conversation going. Also, a very non-formal request for feedback. Actually, what you see here are screenshots of our training sessions in Aboitiz Academy. So, for example, as people come into a session, guys, listen, okay, have them type into the chat function a fun fact about themselves, right? Like, for example, can you think of anything I want to see from the chat function? Guys, right now, can you tell me any fun fact about yourself? Let's see if it works for you. Can you share with me any fun fact about yourself? I have 8 dogs. I love eating. I can't ride a bike. Nice. Daphne, what's that? I'm a jolly person, okay? So there's a lot, right? And it will really have engagement from your audience. Or it could also be, for example, maybe one word to describe. How are you guys feeling today? One word. How are you guys feeling today? Okay, great, awesome, fantastic, bless. Good to hear, guys. I'm so happy for you. Okay, or it could also be one thing, right, that you want to get out of the class, or for this, in this case, what would you want to get from this webinar, right? So it's really good, okay? It's really good to use this function as icebreakers to start virtual sessions. Here actually on your screen, what you could see are responses during our actual discussions. These responses talk about how they perceive a photo that I have shown them when I ran the coaching skills training and what they would actually do given the situation I provided. Okay, step 1, we have the use of webcam or unmuting yourselves when speaking. Tip number 2, use the chat function. Utilize it well. All clear? Let's go to tip number 3. So what is tip number 3? Tip number 3 is, of course, have a video activity. Watching videos are very much interesting for your participants. Believe me, no matter what age. Remember though, that it has to be short, okay? Like 5 minutes maximum. Remember, it has to be short, 5 minutes maximum. For example, when I'm going to show a video, if you're going to show a video, you can say that, let me show you this quick video that puts our conversations in this virtual room into perspective. That's how you can say it, right? And then after watching it, ask for a volunteer to process what they just have watched. All right? So again, first one, use your webcam, unmute yourselves. Second, maximize the chat function. And the third one, have a video activity and process it. Let's go to the 4th tip, which is actually a lot, right? So as you can see on your screen, I know that not all these features are actually available in your respective platforms, but guys, we are educators. We can always find ways on how we can adapt to this. Let's innovate, okay? So in Zoom, there is actually an option there to raise your hand when they make a comment or ask a question. If I don't have Zoom, what will I do? Right? Remember, you have the webcam. You can ask them to turn on their webcam, raise their hands if they have a question. It's as simple as that, right? It could be incremental, right? But actually, it would have a big impact. Okay. Second, you can also simply ask them to answer your questions by checking if it's Zoom, or typing yes or no during your content delivery. Okay, next, emoticons. You know what? This is very interesting for millennials. You can let them know that they can copy paste emojis in the chat function. So you could ask them, okay, guys, this is what I'm going to do. All right. So you could ask them to smile. If the smile emoji, if they like the idea you're presenting, applaud if they know how to apply it immediately, shock if they were surprised, right, with how the situation that you have given turned out, and maybe confused if they don't get your point. And hopefully that won't be the case. Hopefully there will be no emojis that they look confused, right? So this could be used to check in with your participants after a module. Next, polling. It's available in Zoom. And if you don't have Zoom, there's a free platform. Guys, there's a free platform. Make use of this. It's called Slido, okay? Which makes polling possible in real time. We use actually Slido in Aboitiz Academy. And aside from polling, it actually collects the best questions from your audience anonymously, which makes actually everyone comfortable if they're really shy to ask questions, and it really makes them part of the conversation. Okay, so hopefully you learned something from me here. First, use your webcam, unmute yourself. Second, what's the second one? Is to maximize the chat function. Third one is to have a video activity. The fourth one is, of course, have this question and answer portion using these different activities. All right, let's go to the fifth one. The fifth one is actually my favorite, and it's really making my participants engage. It's breakout rooms, right? We use breakout rooms when we want to practice a skill or have a small group discussion. So this is most helpful when you're brainstorming. Guys, I love role playing. That's why breakout rooms is very important. Or maybe if you want to tackle a complex problem. So as a facilitator, just ensure, right, that you visit each room to provide guidance and facilitate some discussions. I know this is not a feature available in most platforms, but as I have said earlier, we should find ways on how we can organize this small group discussions. For example, in Aboitiz Academy, we actually sent out different calendar invitations per group ahead of time so that they will just connect to it during the activity. This we actually call it virtual tables, right? So this is something that you could do if you don't have Zoom. Just create calendar invitations per group. Ask them to connect to that invitation when it's time for them to do the activity. Okay? Next one, annotating and whiteboarding. So if you don't have Zoom as a platform, you could actually just share a document or a slide, a blank one, or even something that has contents already with your participants if you don't have this feature, right? So you start actually topics, okay? Remember, it's a blank page. Start topics with a question and have participants use to populate content. Okay, so your role is to merely facilitate the comments, and you use this to set up instructional content to follow and get thinking started. So guys, simply ask them, list what they know about the topic, then formally get into the course materials in that topic. After breaks actually, or at the start of new topics, have them type questions about an upcoming segment. And then when you also want to highlight something in your presentation, as long as they are given access to the file, make sure all participants, no one is missed out. When you share them the file, you can ask them to mark on the slide what's most relevant to them, or ask one person to highlight, right, to make a choice. So this tip could actually make everyone focus on your screen. A lot of tips, hopefully something works for you. Okay, next one, guys. The next one is very interesting to a lot of learners, especially for the young ones, right? Because they are actually very competitive in nature. It's gaming. Okay, so participants enjoy this a lot. So here are some of my recommended platforms that you can actually utilize for gaming, and it's all free, so it's really not a problem. There's Kahoot and Mentimeter. So Kahoot, are you guys familiar with Kahoot? Good. I'm so happy to see that you guys are using it. So then maybe I will have to skip this slide. Okay, but for the sake of the others, right, let me just quickly explain it. Kahoot actually generates multiple choice quizzes, right? Participants receive points depending on the speed with which they respond correctly, and a leaderboard displays the top 5 players. So here you really have to be competitive. So each individual receives discrete feedback of where they rank within the classroom, right? And then there's Mentimeter. Mentimeter is actually used for real-time voting. It collects insights from your participants, and they can interact anonymously with it. Sometimes even just, for example, to input the emoji that they're feeling. This could also be a good platform for that. Guys, this is a problem for some virtual sessions, but I'm so happy that I really haven't experienced it yet. If no one from your participants, right, are volunteering to answer your question, you can use the will decide. It's so exciting because you just need to ensure that names of all your participants are there. Again, don't miss anyone, and then just spin the wheel, and then you're good to go. Someone can answer the question for you. Okay, I'm very happy to know that most of you are already using these platforms. Okay, so other games possible, if it's not a platform, you could also ask participants, right? Maybe if it's very simple, to match the terms with the definitions on your side, something like that. Now, so again, these are a lot of tips, but hopefully something here would actually apply to you. But guys, the last one is very important to determine how you will assess your learner's performance. So maybe the first one that you could consider is to have a task checklist. So you could create on-the-job task checklist, even as simple as answering yes or no at the end of the training. Scenarios. Scenarios, for example, you describe a real-life work environment, or what will they do given the situation. So this actually works best when you are in breakout rooms. So guys, I really highly encourage to implement breakout rooms. So after making a choice, give them feedback, right? Because scenarios, these are really role plays that would work best in a smaller group. And then last one, online test. So this is released after the session, and of course, questions are based on your learning objectives. All right, I'm almost done, down to my 2 slides. So guys, here you can see some feedback from our team members when we conducted a virtual instructor-led learning. If you're going to read the feedback, there is feedback on content. There is feedback on the energy of the facilitator. That's why I keep on telling you, delivery is very important to your learners. And then there's feedback on how they appreciate the activities, right? They can't believe that it's really possible even when it is virtual. There's feedback on the timing, right? On the spacing of the sessions. Guys, remember, 1 to 1.5 hours would be best for your participants. Make sure there are sessions in the morning, sessions in the afternoon. It's okay if it's for 4 consecutive days, as long as it's not 1 whole day of virtual, okay? That would really be not good for your participants, okay? So those are just some feedback. Now, on my last slide, and I hope this is something that would also inspire all of you. In Aboitiz, we're not just converting our classroom training into virtual sessions. It's not just the classroom training. We are very proud to say that we have other learning and development programs that are actually converted to virtual. Are you guys interested to hear what it is? Would you want to know the other sessions that we do in Aboitiz Academy? Okay, let's start. First one, So aside again from classroom training, the first initiative that we have this level up learning lunes. So to foster our student always mindset, because I said, right, in Aboitiz, we really have this self-driven learning and development mindset. We came up with this initiative, which actually allows us to share live sessions, right, at the start of each week, every Monday, okay? And a number of our sessions, which for example, discuss continuous improvement, we had digital marketing, disaster risk and resilience, were all facilitated by our very own team leaders and team members in the Aboitiz group. And we have actually live streamed through Facebook by Workplace. And of course, we make it as engaging as possible. And we're so happy to see that a lot of our team members are really enjoying the sessions and are actually anticipating. Okay, the next one, we have a mentoring partnership program in Aboitiz. You thought at first this is not possible virtually, right? But it is. We really have success stories on this. So a purposeful one-on-one between mentor and mentee, it's done virtually. The session is really used to exchange and gain insights, really leading to mutual learning and development. I hope you have these programs in your respective organizations. Third, which I think is very relevant to most of our team members, we have lunch and learn. So these are informal learning sessions that we use it used to be held in our office cafeteria, where we actually serve desserts to all our participants over lunch. So we had topics like psychology of colors, languages of appreciation, how to break free from bad habits, and a lot more. So the pandemic actually did not stop us. Given the situation, we also converted this to virtual, right? And the only difference is we adjusted the time from 12 to 1 to 11 to 12, because of course, we want to respect personal time. Okay, so there we have lunch and learn. And then the fourth one, we have community learning session. So this is another program that we have in Aboitiz Academy that keeps target communities connected. And it really demonstrates that the organization cares, right, for our own development. Because it could be a session specific to people managers. It could be a session for HR people. It could be another session for finance people. You know, guys, the only skill that you need if you are in learning and development in Aboitiz Academy is to have that teamwork and then build partnerships with people so you can organize all these sessions for free. Okay, and actually what a new one that we're planning, we will be organizing a session specific only to certain users of an online platform. So we make sure that if something exists, of course, there has to be a community learning session corresponding to it. And the last one, okay, we have Leaders Connect. It's also used to be in person. It's usually 1.5 hour session to discuss pressing leadership challenges. And also it really provides our executives, when we say executives, these are assistant vice president and up in the Aboitiz group. It provides them with some insights, tips, and tools. So guys, it's not just virtual training. It's also other learning programs in Aboitiz Academy. That's it. I think I'm done. Okay. Thank you so much. I hope you learned something from me.
Thank you so much, Marla. I'm pretty sure that the majority, if not all of our participants for today were able to pick up something from your presentation. And I'm very excited because we have a lot of questions in the Q&A box. Let me start with this one. This one was the first question that popped up. The question is, how do we find the balance of engagement, specifically by having our participants turn their cameras on and creating a psychologically safe environment for learning?
So actually, guys, to answer that question, using of their webcam is not really advisable for most of your, for the duration of your course. So you have to set the expectations at the beginning of the session that when we are in this activity or we are already tackling this module, you will have to turn on your cameras. I know that it may not be a psychologically safe environment, right? But as I've said earlier, it would really make them focus more on the discussion. So you just need to have some timing, know when to have their webcams turned on. So I think if you put that in the agenda at the beginning of the session, then they can prepare for it.
Thank you, Marla. So that's a very common question, especially for a lot of trainers, talent developers, which are more or less, diba? They nangangapa in thinking that,
Correct.
oh my God, I am alone in this training. I want to see, and I crave for that, for the faces of my participants. Thank you for that. Another good question here coming in from Rafael Luis Lopez pertaining to your tip on the number of lines in the slides. His question is, what do you think of using abbreviations to summarize concepts, but then it would become more than 6 lines on a single slide?
Okay, so if I really don't recommend abbreviations because you don't expect all your learners to know what it means, okay? So if that is the case, then you will have to have another slide, okay, to ensure that you are actually meeting the target number of words on the deck. So I believe it's possible. There will always be workarounds on that. And again, I said you could use images to represent something. And anyway, you have talking points. So that would be okay. It doesn't necessarily, it's not necessary to have all the concepts on your deck. So I just recommend to have another slide for that if you feel like it's not enough. But I'm really telling you, stick to what I have recommended because I believe that would work best for most of our learners.
Thank you. That's very actionable. So as much as possible, avoid using acronyms. And I have this one, another good question, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of our participants can relate to this. I can also relate to this. How do you help then students or your learners with technical limitations? Like, for example, poor internet connectivity or no mobile devices at home?
Guys, I'm not a one-man team, okay? So we have a Boitis Academy. So actually, we have Learning and Development Associate. Of course, I could tap them and then ensure to check on our participants, right? Guys, don't do it on your own. You need to have some assistance. Maybe if you really don't have a team member to support you, then maybe call for a friend, right? Even just for that particular session so that they could assist you in terms of connectivity issues, if there are concerns in audio, right? So don't do it by yourselves. Have someone, a technical guy, right? Or even someone from your team who is very good at it. Okay?
Thank you, Marla. And perhaps something that you could also, I can also share is that currently, yeah, please go ahead.
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, so currently there's a particular report right now from LinkedIn that executives are more willing now to support investments in learning and development, not only because it pertains to training, but also it is now a very engaging tool, given that a lot of companies, organizations are now working remotely. So thanks again, Marla, for that answer.
No, sorry.
Yeah, please go.
Because I think it's aligned to this. Some Ruby. Hi, Ruby. So she's asking, how many L&D staff to do all your programs? Would you believe that there's just the 2 of us in a Boitis Academy? Right? But we can do it. Yeah, we're very flexible. Especially, her name is Isha, and actually she's here with us today, supporting me as well. And yeah, I think 2-man team would actually do. As long as you have connections in other teams like IT, then it's possible.
Yeah, it's a partnership between the different stakeholders in the organization. Yes. So I'm going to give you another question, Marla. The question here, what is the ideal number of participants in a corporate webinar training? So just to, before you answer this, let me just give a shout out to our 500 participants here in Zoom and more than 100 participants in FB Live.
Hi guys, so nice to see you all. I hope I could see your faces, but yeah. So to answer that question, in a Boitis Academy, we limit our participants maximum of 15 to 20 per session, because of course we don't want to accommodate more than 20. I think it's just too much, and you might have a difficult time. As I've mentioned, right, in one of my slides, one of the challenges is really less face time. So I think it's still possible that you could address their concerns if there are only 20 people in the classroom, in the virtual classroom. Isha is actually asked our Learning and Development Associate to participate as well, so that she would know, she's aware of the virtual environment if there are some issues during the session.
Thank you. So if we want to make it as interactive as possible, we would try to limit it and not do 500, for example, if it's going to be interactive. Thank you, Marla. I have another good question here from AJ Mendoza. How can you share to us what are the tips and how do we do effective breakout rooms? So increasingly, dumadami na yung mga suggestions on using effective or using breakout rooms, and a lot of platforms are now offering breakout rooms. So can you share with us some of your tips and anecdotes on using that?
Okay, so actually for breakout rooms, it's, yeah, sadly, si Zoom yung #1 doon, right? But as I've said earlier, how we did it, since we're using Google Meet, and I'm sure all platforms have calendar invitations anyway, right? What you can do is to really send out different calendar invitations to your team members when they're supposed to connect to that meeting for that activity. So may certain time na nakaschedule si calendar per group. I think that's the best advice that I could give you now, because if you really don't have resources, a calendar invitation would be enough. Now, what I do, I unmute myself, right, in the main training session, in the virtual session, but I join the virtual rooms so that I can engage with those participants. I can facilitate the discussion. I actually hear the role playing, so I could give them inputs. And then out of the session, go to the other virtual room. It's as simple as that. You just really need to be creative, find ways on how you could actually engage with all the participants, whether they are in different breakout rooms.
Thank you, Marla. So that reminds me of how we used to do it on-site training.
Very manual.
Take them, and then we go to them, ask them questions,
yes,
and then encourage them to think outside of the box and use the concepts of the training. Very reminiscent of that. Another one that I have here would be, let me read this one. This one was sent in jest. So two questions. The other one is, are there any openings in your learning and development department?
Am I really supposed to answer that? That's what's happening now, right? So we're on freeze hiring, unfortunately.
Okay, so it says a lot about how advanced Aboitiz is in terms of dealing with academies and rolling out and implementing your learning and development programs. Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe we can have 2 more questions. I'd like to send my apologies to everyone. We have around 25 open questions, but unfortunately, we won't have the luxury of time, and we would like to give Marla then the rest of the day for her other things. So the next question is for you, based on your experience, how long would be an ideal virtual learning session, taking into consideration Zoom fatigue in learners?
So guys, remember, it has to be bite-sized. When I say bite-sized, it has to be 1 hour to 1.5 hour long per session. But since you're breaking like let's say an 8-hour training, classroom training, right? It has to be, there would be a session in the morning, another session in the afternoon. If that doesn't work for you, then for 5 consecutive mornings, right? But only for 1 hour. And really to avoid that fatigue, right, from Zoom, as I've shared earlier, make sure that you have 10-minute break per hour. That is very important.
Thank you. So that's a very actionable response, Marla. And perhaps the last question that we can ask would be this one from Adonis Basa. So there's been a lot of suggestions, recommendations, and tips on how to be engaging. So his question is there such a thing as overly engaging? When are interactions too much?
That's a tricky question. Yeah. So Yeah, sometimes it could be overly engaging, but I don't think it's really a bad thing because, as I've said, when your participants are fully engaged, there's 100% focus, 100% retention of the topic. So don't get paranoid, don't get worried that you feel like you might be overly engaging, because that actually works for them. But of course, not every minute there's an activity, right? Of course, you also have to space it out. Okay?
All right. Thank you so much, Marla. So perhaps I can answer some of the non-topic related questions before I conclude the Q&A portion. In terms for those who came in a bit late and are asking if they're able to receive certificates, yes. If you've stayed here for at least 40 minutes, we will be sending you a post-evaluation form, answer them, and then you can get your certificate. People are also asking if they can get a copy of the slides of the presentation.
Definitely.
Yes. So Marla gave us a green light so that we can also send to you the presentation. A lot of people are asking that. There are also some questions here, perhaps from our friends that are educators that are asking about how they can do this on the primary or secondary level, but unfortunately that won't be included in the scope of this particular training. But if you want to give something, an insight, Marla.
So just to share with you guys, I was a secondary teacher before I actually become part of the Aboitiz family. I was a chemistry teacher, and so those are third year high school students, and the tips that I have actually given you would work best, right, for them, because it's something that they could easily relate to, especially the games, and also they're the ones who are really good virtually. So yeah, I think it would still work for them, even if they're secondary teachers.
Thank you so much, Marla, for sharing that. So that's something that I didn't know, that you were a secondary teacher prior to you working in adult learning. So, but for our educator friends, so we're going to have, I'm pretty sure Luz is going to share this, we're going to have a couple of weeks dedicated only to our educator friends in the Philippine Society for Talent Development for July. So please stay tuned for that. All right. So for me, my key takeaway here is that directly moving the content of your in-person training to a barrage of PowerPoint slides will definitely not work. And we will have to be more creative than that. It's a challenge, yes, but a challenge that will make us better in navigating this relatively new learning modality. So thank you, Marla, for providing us very practical ways on how to do just that. And of course, we hope that everyone in attendance today was able to pick something from our session. Again, thank you so much, Marla, for spending an hour of your afternoon for PSTD. Again, my name is Lawrence as the moderator, and I'm going to give the floor back now to our anchor, Luz Mercurio.
Three things now to consider to have a great virtual learning session. We need to take care of the content, the delivery, and technology. So we need to prepare relevant content. We need an engaging delivery, including the proper breakout room presence. I like that, Marla. And of course, choose the right technology to support your presentation. I also value the inputs that you send in, dear participants. Luz Cañete will try quizzes, Quizlet, Flipgrid, Edpuzzle. These are very interesting. And to all our participants via Zoom 506, we have maxed out Zoom capability, and we also have 126 FB viewers. Maraming salamat po for joining us this afternoon. We would like to invite you on June 23 at 2 p.m. We'll have coaching during the pandemic period. Also, on Saturday, for those of you who really want to know details and actual examples for virtual learning, join us for another session in Chillax. That's June 20 at 3 p.m. And as Lawrence mentioned, July will be dedicated to you, our dear teachers. We'll have the entire July 2 learning sessions per week. All of them are free for you, and we have taken into consideration the result of the training needs analysis, the sprint we had with you last June 1st week, and we will be providing you exciting, interesting, even up to the chillax session, gamification, because we really care for you. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Marla. Thank you, Lawrence. Have a pleasant day ahead of you. Thank you. Bye.